expiration date is always in the last place. Pictures fill my world. If anything could swirl the palette that would emphasize your rainbow. Reaching for the best of time, fearing that the scene has changed. Things that once were right, they took you on a ride once again. Blistered by the burning rain, until the one is seen again. It's always hard to face the pain, and now you run to what you always do. Slipping through the slacking rain, the chances come to start anew. Don't look now, just turn the page. There's better things out there for me and you. But I still remember that long, long Sunday. I still remember when you went away. Wasting any time, a soft breeze away. Feel like the first time I quiver to say I get so tired, hanging around. It's hard to get I feel so
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Whew. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
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 Thanks.
Oh, thank you!
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Corrosion. Corrosion to her thighs. Erosion. Erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter. Baby's got it. Baby's got it. Corrosion now. Corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Baby does got it. It's not sure which one. I'm sure she does. Greetings and salutations from Middle Earth. This is I, Uncle Warren. This is Morning Extra. We got bad news for you as always. But the good news is people are here in the chats. So let's shout them out while we're here. We got Kieran. Good to see you, Kieran. Miss Lainey Peterson. She's in the house. We got John Kemper, too. Good to see you, my friend. Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show Intergalactic. Coming to a YouTube and Rumble near you very soon. Willie Bragg. Willie doing the midnight special. He was Wolfman Jack last night. Did like 1:30 in the morning or something? Maybe I'm wrong about the time, but it was pretty late. I woke up this morning and noticed that Willie had done a stream. I'm like, oh shit. All right. So anyway, but it's always, I can go back and watch it later, so it's fine. Yeah, so we got a little poll going on here, and there's polls going on Twitter and YouTube on the community tab as well. We'll get more to this importance of this later. So right now, over here in our chat, we have 7 votes as who's the real client list kingpin? Is it Jeffrey Epstein, Peter Thiel, neither or both equally in charge? 43% of you think either they're both equally in charge or neither. That's an interesting split. None of you think Peter is in charge. And Jeffrey at 14%. And let's see. Hang on a second. I should have had this a little more prepared than I did. Yeah. So and over on Twitter right now with 6 votes, Jeffrey and neither at 33%. Peter, Thiel, and both equally in charge at 16.7%. And then over on YouTube on the community tab, 4 votes. Jeffrey and both equally in charge. So I don't know what the math is there. Also, who killed Theo? Why'd y'all kill Theo? From the Cosby Show. Malcolm Jamar Warner, 54 years old, man. Rest in peace. That's too young. Said he drowned. He was on vacation or something, and he drowned, man. Fucking Theo, man. Theo no mo. Could just toss a coin on that one, on this question. Yeah, I know it could be anything, but I'm just curious what y'all think. Not D'Onofrio, no. But yeah. So anyway, we've got a James Lee video later that kind of goes more into about the Peter Thiel and Jeffrey Epstein, and who might actually was worse. It's probably Peter Thiel, to be honest with you, because he's still alive. So, or is at least he's still out in the public doing shit. Yeah. So we'll get all that. Let's get to the bad news. That's what you're here for. That's why you pay your $1.50 at the door there. Israeli forces kill 130 Palestinians in Gaza over 24 hours. They just keep killing Tens of hundreds of people every day. Gaza's health ministry said today Israeli forces killed 130 Palestinians and wounded 1,155, Jesus, over the previous 24-hour period as airstrikes and massacres of people seeking aid continue. The health ministry said that another 4 bodies were recovered from the rubble. A number of victims remain under the rubble and in the streets as ambulance and civil defense crews are unable to reach them at this time. The ministry wrote on Telegram, which means there's just thousands of more people out there. Not counting, and that's not counting the ones that were, taken away, swept away somewhere. Among the dead were 99 Palestinians who were killed while seeking aid, most of whom were killed on Sunday while attempting to reach UN aid trucks that entered northern Gaza. The ministry said that the number of Palestinians killed while seeking aid has risen to over 1,000 and over 6,500 have been injured. Israeli strikes on Monday included an attack on a water desalination plant in Gaza. Yes, that Hamas water desalination plant, which killed at least 5 Palestinians, including a woman. In southern Gaza, 5 members of the same family were killed by a strike on tents sheltering displaced people. Yes, those Hamas tents. Also on Monday, Israeli tanks and ground troops launched an offensive in Deir al-Balah, central Gaza, the only city that hasn't seen major ground operations. Family members of Israeli captives believe many of the remaining hostages could be held in the area and have released a statement expressing concern over the new offensive because they're afraid the IDF is going to kill their families, which they should totally be scared of. The families of the hostages are shocked and alarmed by these reports, and of this moment, we have received no official organized updates or satisfactory answers on this matter, the Hostages and Missing Families Forum said in a statement. The families of the hostages are shocked and alarmed by these reports. Are they really? The new Israeli ground offensive comes amid a spike in starvation deaths in Gaza due to the Israeli blockade, and many aid groups are based in Deir al-Balah. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that 2 of the UN's guest houses in the area were struck by the IDF, despite the Israeli military being aware of their location. Well, that's why they struck them, because they were aware of their location. These locations, as with all civilian sites, must be protected regardless of evacuation orders, he said. And there are the numbers there. It says 59,000. We know those numbers are just way too low. I'm going to stop with the numbers, but I'll still keep telling you about the atrocities that Israel's facing. Let's try that again. Meanwhile, Israeli-made famine in Gaza reaches critical point as over 100 Palestinians die of hunger, which is one of the worst ways to die. At least 15 Palestinians died of starvation in Gaza over the past 24 hours, bringing the death toll from hunger and malnutrition to 101 since the start of the genocide, including 89 children, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry today. This is a silent massacre. The Ministry of Health holds the Israeli occupation and the international community fully responsible, particularly the West. We urgently call for the immediate opening of all crossings to allow the entry of food and medicine, the ministry said. Euromed Monitor reported that 1 Palestinian died of hunger every 80 minutes on Sunday, accusing Israel of pursuing a systematic starvation policy against 2 million residents. The World Food Program warned that 1 in 3 people in Gaza are going days without food, with thousands on the verge of catastrophic hunger. Well, they're starving them to death. That's exactly what they're doing. It basically is leave or starve. Gaza's government media office said that 1.25 million people in the enclave are currently living under catastrophic hunger. At the same time, 96% of the population suffers from severe food insecurity, including over 1 million children, which means they're starving. The office added that over 650,000 children under 5 face imminent and severe risk of acute malnutrition. Al-Shifa Hospital's director said medical staff are treating hundreds suffering from exhaustion, memory loss, and collapse. We don't have enough beds or medicine, he said. We have 17,000 children suffering from severe malnutrition. This is a generation being starved to death. UNRWA warned the Israeli authorities are starving civilians in Gaza. Among them are 1 million children. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Society said Palestinians face an acute risk of famine, adding no one should have to risk their life to get basic humanitarian assistance. On March 2nd, Israel closed Gaza's main crossings, cutting off all food and medical supplies. Human rights organizations accuse it of using starvation as a weapon of war. Limited aid has since been distributed by the U.S.-sponsored death trap GHF, which has been widely condemned for bypassing the UN, restricting aid to specific zones. And this is from the Cradle. Israeli Navy forces abducted several Gaza fishermen this morning after they defied Tel Aviv's ban on fishing across the besieged coastal strip. Jesus Christ. Many continue to risk their lives to break Israel's war of hunger. They're trying to eat, and these fishermen are getting arrested. The UN confirmed that few trucks have reached Gaza, with officials describing GHF distribution sites as mass death traps and slaughterhouses, that is exactly what they are. Steve Wolfbrand, what's up? Good to see you, Steve. Hope you're doing well this morning. Since GHF began operations on May 27th, Israeli forces and U.S. mercenaries have killed over 900 aid seekers and injured more than 60,000, according to the health ministry, with another 46 people still missing after attempting to collect food. Doctors Without Borders warned that weaponizing aid in this manner may constitute crimes against humanity. They're starving them. It's crimes against humanity. Literal crimes against humanity. AFP warned on Monday that its Gaza correspondents are facing starvation. We refuse to see them die, the agency said in a statement. So you even have journalists who are risking their lives over there who can't get food in either. One of its photographers, Bashar, wrote, "I can no longer work in the media. My body is too thin and I can no longer work." On Sunday, he reported that his older brother had fallen from starvation. Fallen in quotes, meaning, Dr. Shoaib Al-Hams, director of the field hospital at Al-Mawasi Zone, in the Al-Mawasi Zone, warned of a wave of deaths due to organ failure. On Friday, health officials in Gaza reported a growing epidemic of famine, with hundreds suffering severe intestinal illness, exhaustion, and memory loss from prolonged hunger. And, AOC voted to let them still have more military in Israel. Good morning, Steph. Stephanie spoke in class today. When are people going to learn, man? I still see these fucking Zio babies on Twitter. I don't engage with them hardly anymore because what's the point? But they're just like, proud supporter of the IDF. And funny enough, a lot of them are police officers. So, not saying the two are related. And they're trying to just basically take Gaza from them. Like, shooing somebody out of their own house just to take it over, right? Because the UN says over 87% of the Gaza Strip is under Israeli military orders and militarized zones. The UN said yesterday that 87.7% of the Gaza Strip is within Israeli militarized zones under displacement orders or in areas where the two overlap. Citing Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, that's OCHA, UN spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric told a news conference that 87.7% of Gaza is now under displacement orders or within displacement zones, squeezing about 2.1 million people into a fragmented area of the Strip where hardly any services are available. And remember, it's not Dujarric. It's not delivery. It's Dujarric. See, I fucked that joke up. Probably shouldn't have said it. Emphasizing that more than 1.3 million people in Gaza are in need of shelter and household items, Dujarric said harsh weather, humidity, overcrowding, and frequent disassembly A reassembly of tents and tarpaulins led to shorter lifespan of shelter items. He highlighted the dire situation in the enclave where no shelter supplies have entered more than 4 months. The fuel crisis continues. The limited quantity that have been allowed to enter Gaza in recent days are hardly sufficient, he said, adding that the UN is prioritizing the use of available fuel for most critical operations. Dujarric also emphasized the deeply concerning reports of severely malnourished people, who we were telling you about there, who are arriving in medical points and hospitals in extremely poor health amid ongoing Israeli attacks. Yesterday, the Ministry of Health reported that more than a dozen people, including children, have reportedly died from hunger in the last 24 hours, he said, describing the situation on the ground as nearly impossible. Hang on just a second. Okay, sorry. Where was I? Okay. Okay. So 86 people, including 76 children, have died from hunger and dehydration since October 2023, but that's actually more. Last November, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Bibi. You also know that as well. So did the ICJ. So not only are they starving these people, they're slowly but surely taking over Gaza in order to squeeze them out. And how do we know this? Well, the Israeli army chief has said so. Israeli army chief pushes for Gaza takeover as alternative to concentration camps. Yeah. The concentration camps probably was not a good, whoever in marketing came up with that probably should have probably been fired. The Israeli Army's chief of staff has suggested a plan to step up its genocidal assault on Gaza and seize more territory in the Strip as an alternative to the previously suggested initiative for displacing the entire population and confining it to a, quote, humanitarian city, aka concentration camp in the south, Israeli media reported. Although they didn't report the aka concentration camp, that's just kind of inferred because it's true. According to sources cited by Hebrew news outlet Channel 12, it's been described as a plan for taking over Gaza. This would mean widening control over Gaza to include more than the 75% of the enclave currently held, well, 87% now. The report does not specify how much more territory the Army's chief, Ayal Zamir, has suggested taking over. Zamir told ministers at a meeting recently that the proposal includes gradually capturing and holding a larger piece of Gaza in a bid to pressure Hamas into a deal. The chief of staff reportedly opposes the plan for a humanitarian city unveiled by Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz earlier this month. The plan involves the displacement of an initial 600,000 Palestinians into an Israeli-controlled humanitarian city built on the ruins of the southernmost city of Rafah, which has been destroyed by Israel. Palestinians would not be permitted to leave as part of the plan that has widely been described as a concentration camp for Palestinians. The Israeli initiative would cost billions of dollars. Some have suggested that it's too unfeasible to implement and was announced as a pressure tactic. The Channel 12 report comes one day after the Israeli military began ground incursions in the central city of Deir al-Balah, which it had not yet operated. Israel issued an evacuation order for the southwestern part of Deir al-Balah, one of the few remaining parts of Gaza that had not yet been razed by Israeli ground troops. The order demanded that residents flee to the already overcrowded al-Mawasi coastal zone where hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians are sheltering. I mean, think about hundreds of thousands of people in any location, right? Think of like a rock concert you've been to with like maybe 50,000 people or something like that. And you're like, God damn, this is a crazy amount of people. Just to like add like a couple 50 more that, 50, 100, 200,000 people. And they're just trying to survive. Heavy bombing targeted the area on Sunday night after the Israeli army said it was continuing to, quote, operate with great force to destroy the enemy's capabilities and terror infrastructure in the area, unquote. Ceasefire talks have recently stalled once again, despite reports that Bibi is prepared for concessions, including a withdrawal of troops from the Morag Axis, established in southern Gaza earlier this year. However, there's always a however with Israel. Tel Aviv continues to insist on the complete defeat of Hamas and has repeatedly signaled that it will continue the war after any potential captive exchange. So we'll swap. It's not about the hostages. It never was about the hostages. Hamas is demanding a permanent end to the war and an Israeli withdrawal, rejecting Netanyahu's term that the resistance surrender its weapons. As the talks stall, starvation has overtaken the Strip, as we told you. Yeah, so that's the goal. Is they just want Gaza. They're gonna make this, Riviera that they're trying to create. What was that? That idiot, that actor was talking about. He said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna put up casinos and strip joints." What's up, Desert Man? It's good to see you. You're the kingpin. I knew it. I knew you had you told me about that private island that you created in the shape of dick and balls. If I was ever rich, I would like that. If I was like evil genius, like trillionaire rich, I'd make an island in the shape of dick and balls. I ain't even gonna lie. That'd probably be the first thing on my list, to be honest with you. So yeah, Israel up to its old shenanigans, but we're starting to see more and more countries start coming around. We'll talk to you more about that coming up. But it's not enough. We need more. You got to keep the pressure up, no matter how many gains that you get. So good news, everyone. At least some justice somewhere. This is from the Libertarian Institute, Kyle Anzalone. Be sure to check them out, them and antiwar.com, too. 2 Israeli soldiers arrested in Belgium for stealing waffles. Nope, for war crimes committed in Gaza. And for stealing waffles. That's a big no-no. You don't steal waffles. Even though there's like waffles all over the place. Belgian federal police have arrested 2 Israeli soldiers after the Hind Rajab Foundation, the HRF, and the Global Legal Action Network, that's GLAN, filed complaints earlier this week. The suspects were identified and arrested with a clear show of force at the Tomorrowland Festival in Boom. Like, boom, you got arrested. And Tomorrowland means being somebody's prison bitch. Maybe. After being taken into custody, they were formally interrogated and released, a statement from the HRF explained. The Belgian Federal Prosecutor's Office has confirmed that a criminal investigation is now underway. The HRF was formed as an effort to hold Israeli soldiers accountable for war crimes when they travel abroad. The HRF said the arrests may become a turning point in the global pursuit of accountability. Well, it depends on who they arrest. If you're just arresting soldiers, yeah, that's all well and good, but let's get the big fish, okay? The organization was named after Hind Rajab, a 5-year-old Palestinian girl who was killed by Israeli soldiers after pleading for assistance with emergency services. Her desperate cries for help as she begged for rescue on the phone with emergency services moved hearts around the world, HRF explains on its website. The ambulance that was sent to save her after hours of negotiation was obliterated by the Israeli army, ensuring that Hind's life was cruelly and deliberately extinguished. 5 years old. The Federal Prosecutor's Office announced on Monday that it received complaints from HRF and GLAN on Friday and Saturday and determined that they may have merit. The evidence used in the complaints was sourced from the soldiers' social media accounts because, those motherfuckers are always bragging about popping kids. Fucking psychos. In light of this possible jurisdiction, the Federal Prosecutor's Office instructed the police to locate the 2 individuals mentioned in the complaint and to proceed with their questioning. After the interviews, they were released. A statement from the Federal Prosecutor's Office said, Israeli soldiers have frequently posted images and videos of themselves committing war crimes in Gaza on their social media feeds. As we told you, they brag about it. They brag about that shit. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Britain's starting to grow a little pair of balls, maybe. Probably not, but, you like to see some sort of progress here. As nearly 60 British members of parliament and peers call for full arms embargo on Israel, not those license bullshit things, like actually cutting the whole thing off. And the guy like the weather guy on the Today Show. Nearly 60 British MPs and peers have called for a full embargo on arms exports to Israel and for the government to be more transparent about the licenses it grants for military exports. Their demands outlined in a July 18th letter sent to Foreign Secretary David Lammy and Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds comes as Lammy has warned Israel of further sanctions if it does not reach a ceasefire in Gaza. The UK joined 27 other countries, including Australia, Canada, and France, to condemn Israel for depriving Palestinians of human dignity and urged the Israeli government to immediately lift restrictions on the flow of aid. We've announced a raft of sanctions over the last few months, Lammy told ITV's Good Morning Britain on Tuesday. There will be more clearly, and we keep all of these options under consideration if we do not see a change in behavior and the suffering that we are seeing come to an end. I say good day, sir. But those who signed the letter, including Zara Sultana, John McDowell, and Jeremy Corbyn, say the UK government should immediately end all arms exports to Israel or risk being complicit in genocide. The components which create the fighter jets that Israel has used to level Gaza are 15% British made. We cannot hide from that, said Labour MP Steve Witherden, who organized the letter. Without British arms export licenses, these jets could not fly. They could not drop their bombs. Yeah, that's pretty much how that works. The letter follows an adjournment debate last month that marked the first time arms export licenses to Israel had been debated in the Commons since before October 7th of 2023. The MPs and peers asked for clarity about data about UK arms exports to Israel in 2024, released by the Expert Control Joint Unit, a cross-departmental body overseeing UK export licensing for military and dual-use items. During last month's debate, Trade Minister Douglas Alexander said the majority of the £142 million in military export licenses approved in 2024 to Israel were for components that would be re-exported to third countries, including NATO allies. But the letter says that ECJU data shows that of the £141.6 million in standard individual export licenses for military goods issued in 2024, more than half of the approved value appeared to be intended for direct use in Israel. Could the government clarify how this data aligns with the minister's claim that the majority of these licenses were for re-export, the letter asks. Alexander also said that more than £120 million, or around 85% of the total value of licenses for military exports to Israel last year, were for components to support exports of military items from Israeli companies to a single program for a NATO ally. The MPs and peers have asked the government to clarify which NATO ally is involved, the name and nature of the program, and when it was established. In other words, they want some transparency. What is it? They've also asked for clarity about a surge in individual licenses totaling £127.6 million, and mostly for military radars and targeting systems that were issued between October and December of last year, after the newly elected Labour government announced the suspension of around 30 arms licenses to Israel out of like 100 or 200 something. Or no, it was like way more than that. It's like a drop in the bucket. We got 30. Witherden said that repeated calls for greater transparency about arms exports from the government have so far gone unanswered, you think. The bare minimum we can do is be fully honest about what we are sending to a state involved in the indiscriminate slaughter of civilians, he said. Last month, the High Court rejected a challenge brought by rights groups that sought to halt the export of British-made F-35 fighter jet parts indirectly to Israel, though a global supply pool following a 20-month court battle. In their ruling, the judges said they found that the issue was a matter for the executive, which is democratically accountable to Parliament and ultimately to the electorate, not for the courts. The courts basically said, I don't want any of that. Here goes. And now your weather forecast. Doesn't he look like that guy? No, he doesn't look like that guy at all. Sorry. Yeah, so what are we seeing? I don't know. I'm not one particularly who thinks politics and elections and stuff are going to actually do anything. I don't know what Jeremy Corbyn's going to do with this new party that he wants to start. God love him. I hope it works. But, when the system is so much against you like that, it's really hard. What's up, Kenny? Smeghead in the house. Good to see you. These lobby lackeys long bought and paid for. Yep. Wait a minute. What happened? Okay. Meanwhile, Israel says more Humvees, please. Israel purchases $150 million worth of Humvees. So what, they get like 4 Humvees? Using U.S. military aid. They use their lunch money to buy Humvees. The Israeli Defense Ministry announced Sunday that it had signed a $150 million contract to purchase hundreds of high-mobility, multi-purpose wheeled vehicles, commonly known as Humvees, although they really leave out the W, so it really should be Humwivs, but that doesn't really flow off the tongue. In a deal financed by U.S. military aid, the Defense Ministry signed the deal with U.S. manufacturer AM General, and the first shipment of Humvees is expected to be delivered later this year. The deal is expected to replenish military equipment Israel has used in its murderous campaign, in nearly 2-year genocidal war on the Gaza Strip. The U.S.-funded deal comes amid growing criticism of Israel's conduct in Gaza, with 25 Western nations releasing a statement on Monday that condemned Israel for the inhumane killing of civilians. Despite daily atrocities committed by the IDF, there's no sign that the Trump administration is going to take their mouth off that cock. The Trump administration is considering ending or limiting its military support for Israel. Man, I just can't read today. What is up with that? The U.S. provides Israel with $3.8 billion in military aid each year, including $3.3 billion in foreign military financing, a State Department program that gives foreign governments money to purchase U.S. weapons. Here, we're going to give you money so you can buy our weapons, but not from the government. You're buying them from private people like these weapons manufacturers. The other $500 million Israel receives annually goes towards missile defense programs and is dispersed through the Pentagon. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, that crazy broad from Georgia, introduced an amendment to the 2026 NDAA to remove the $500 million for Israel's missile defense, but the measure was overwhelmingly rejected. Only 6 people voted for it. Only 6 House representatives voted in favor of the amendment. That would be Representative Greene herself, Thomas Massey, Al Green. I thought he was no longer with us. Out of Texas, Summer Lee, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar. The U.S. has provided billions of dollars in additional military aid after October 7th, 2023, and according to Israeli media, has financed roughly 70% of Israel's war-related military spending since then. So 70% of those bombs dropping on tents. Look at those Humvees. Look at that. Paid for by our national fund there. Not federal taxes. That didn't pay for it. But the fiat currency did. And God knows what else it's paying for. We'd like to know, but we're probably not going to know anytime soon, right? Maybe not. All right, what's next? What we got here? This was bound to happen. Now that finally Iraq is somewhat not crazy town anymore. U.S. super majors discuss development of oil fields in Iraq. Hey, let's go get that Earl. Come on. Come get that Earl. I know. Let's more than ever. Let's stay together. Al Green, it's good to see him back, man. Loving you well. All right. U.S. oil and gas giants ExxonMobil and Chevron are in discussions about development opportunities in Iraq's oil fields with the government, according to the Iraqi oil ministry. ExxonMobil has conveyed its willingness to return to Iraq. Oh, we're like, oh, well, twist my arm. Oh, okay, we'll come back and get all that delicious oil you got over there, son. Basim Kurer, an undersecretary of Iraq's oil ministry, has said in comments reported by the Iraqi ministry. Well, except for the country. He didn't say that, the country twisted the arm. But last year, Exxon quit the giant Iraqi oil field West Kurna 1, handing over control of the operations to PetroChina, the state-controlled Chinese firm. Dun, dun, dun. West Kurna 1 currently producing about 550,000 barrels per day, that's BPD, of crude oil. That Texas tea is estimated to have as much as 20 billion barrels of recoverable oil resources. Commenting on ongoing talks between the federal government and Exxon, the oil ministry's undersecretary Kuder was quoted as saying that the company is currently in a stage of negotiations with Iraq for a new opportunity in the country's oil fields. These moves are a positive indication of growing interest in Iraq's oil industry by the U.S. and other companies. Oh, a positive indication? Are you sure about that? Well, when you're a puppet of the United States, basically, yeah, I guess you really have no choice but to say that. Separately, the other U.S. oil giant, Chevron, is in discussions to potentially sign development contracts in the southern Nasiriyah oil field and Balad oil field in the north-central Saladin Governorate, the undersecretary said. In recent years, Chinese and Russian companies have moved to scoop up large oil field development assets from Western majors, including Exxon. But this year, UK-based supermajor BP received final approval from the Iraqi government for its contract to invest in the redevelopment of several giant oil fields in Kirkuk, in the north of Iraq. The contract between North Oil Company, that's NOC, North Gas Company, that's NGC, and BP, which is British Petroleum, includes the rehabilitation and redevelopment of the fields, spanning oil, gas, power, and water, with potential for investment in exploration. The agreement is estimated to be worth more than $25 billion. Iraq, OPEC's second largest producer, seeks to boost oil production capacity to more than 6 million barrels per day by 2029 and potentially produce 7 million within the next 5 years. Iraq's current production is about 4 million as it's trying to compensate for previous overproduction in the OPEC agreements. Give me that Earl. I want that Earl. Gimme. I'm gonna put it all over me. I'm gonna rub it on me. You know what I mean? Earl is money. And you know what, we forgot to do this. I don't know, maybe I should do this or not. What we forgot here is that, oil is money, and we like money around here. And we like doing fake commercials. With Desperation Blend Extra Dark Roast Coffee Grounds, take a break for a second from all the bad news, and let's talk about some bad coffee. Conjured by a high priestess during a satanic cult ceremony in the Pine Barrens, this diabolical concoction elicits the essence of mourning as you get up, that fear, anxiety, and the unwillingness to put on pants. This enigma, which also doubles as a lethal crowd dispersal agent, is not only a disgusting breakfast beverage, it's a harbinger of the downfall of humanity with a hint of cinnamon. Are you a frequent victim of confidence men? Are you looking for a coffee so psychologically disturbing it'll make you think you've taken fentanyl laced with Satan? Well, then grab a bag of Desperation Blend Extra Dark Roast Ground Coffee, found online and in an abandoned forest crack house near you. The Blair Witch Project reference right there. So there we go. We don't do that. We don't get paid in the tears of children. We don't get money. We get the tears of children and our enemies. Thank you for participating in that silliness. Meanwhile, in Syria, super Syria, Damascus discloses results of probe, giggity, into government massacres of Alawites. We haven't really covered this too much, but this is kind of bring you up to date on what's going on. The Syrian government has released the findings of a fact-finding committee formed earlier this year with the aim of investigating the massacres committed by Damascus-linked forces against Alawite civilians on the Syrian coast in March. The massacres, which resulted in the killing of thousands, took place in early March this year after cells affiliated with Syria's former military launched an uprising against government forces. At a press conference today, the committee spokesman Yasser Al-Faran said remnants of the Assad regime attempted to seize control of coastal towns and villages with the aim of establishing an Alawite statelet. More than 230 members of Syria's general security were killed, he added, citing the committee's report. He went on to say that armed factions headed toward the coast to retake villages which had fallen under the control of Alawite militants, resulting in the outbreak of violence against civilians. The report documented 938 testimonies from eyewitnesses regarding the violations and abuses that took place. It also documented 298 individuals proven to be involved in violations, and there are individuals who disobeyed military orders and committed abuses. It added that 452 incidents were related to killing and 486 related to armed robbery, theft, burning of houses and commercial shops, or torture. The committee said it verified the deaths of 1,426 people over 3 days, most of them civilians on the Syrian coast, including 90 women. According to the committee, a complete integration of all armed factions into the state has not yet been completed. It noted that at the time of the massacres, state control over armed factions was partial and in some instances non-existent. It also accused some gangs of impersonating security officers. Wow, just like people impersonating ICE cops here just so they can get in on the fun of beating up somebody. The investigation committee said the delay in the release of the findings was due to the recent events in southern Syria and the outbreak of clashes between state-linked forces and local Druze factions, during which dozens of massacres against civilians and field executions were also committed. The committee concluded that those involved in violations during the coastal violence are, quote, being pursued to prevent acts of revenge, while calling on anyone with information to come forward and calling for the formation of compensation programs for victims. However, many of the same extremist militants who filmed themselves carrying out massacres on Syria's coast have now appeared in footage from Suwaida this month, raising serious concerns that elements affiliated with the Ministry of Defense have yet to be held accountable. The coastal massacres took place between March 6th and the 9th of this year. Damascus announced the formation of the fact-finding committee on March 9th and initially pledged to release a report within 1 month. The deadline was later extended by 3 months with a date set for July 10th. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, over 5,500 civilians, mostly Alawites, were killed. An SOHR death toll, including combatants, stood at nearly 2,100. Unofficial estimates at the time said several thousand Alawite civilians, possibly up to 10,000, were killed. An investigation released by Reuters late last month confirmed the direct participation of Syria's general security in the massacres. So Syria, hot mess over there. It's very shades of Iraq after 2003, right? Just the government gone, a new one replaced it, but instead of the U.S. being the ones running the show, it's basically the U.S.'s puppets running the show there. So, and it's just that country, and I feel sorry for the people there because that country's literally being torn apart with the guns and blowing up shit too. Meanwhile, the Syrian Kurds face a 30-day ultimatum from U.S. and Turkey. Like they need that. The U.S. and Turkey have given the Syrian Democratic Forces, the SDF, a 30-day deadline to finish integrating with the Syrian government. Sources familiar with the matter have told Middle East Eye. That's where this is coming from. SDF leader Mazloum Abdi signed an agreement in March with Syrian interim president Ahmad al-Shara outlining the full merger of the SDF and its agencies into the Damascus government. However, progress has stalled as the SDF and other Kurdish groups have demanded autonomy and resisted merging under the Syrian Defense Ministry, insisting on retaining a separate military command and organizational structure within the Syrian army. American and Turkish patience is wearing thin, sources told Middle East Eye. During a meeting in Syria last week, U.S. and Turkish officials gave the SDF a 30-day ultimatum to join the Damascus government. The SDF was told that not all of its armed units would be integrated into the Syrian army. Units excluded from integration would be disarmed, and overall control would remain with the Syrian government, one source said. The Damascus government reportedly shows little interest in incorporating the SDF's all-women units known as the YPJ, an offshoot of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK, into its ranks. Thomas Barak, you know that guy, U.S. ambassador to Turkey and special envoy for Syria, has made it clear in several interviews and statements this month that Washington opposes such demands and favors a unified Syria with one nation, one military, and one state. Because that's what the U.S. does, is dictate terms for other countries, apparently. Earlier this month, the SDF delegation held talks with Syrian government officials as well as American and French representatives. The discussions, however, yielded no breakthrough. After the meeting, Barak told journalists in New York, "We'll bring you together, we'll arbitrate, we'll mediate, we'll help, but we're not going to stick around. If you guys don't agree, then don't agree, but we're not going to be here forever as the babysitter and the mediator," he said. Barak also warned the SDF that failure to reach an agreement with Damascus could result in other alternatives. Bringing democracy. That's what that means. Turkish officials at the meeting held in Syria last week emphasized that the SDF should not exploit the goodwill of Damascus, Ankara, and Washington by prolonging negotiations and stalling for time. Recent Israeli airstrikes in Damascus, prompted by clashes in Swaida, between Bedouins and Druze, has heightened tensions in Ankara. Turkish government sources worry that Israeli intervention could embolden the SDF to persist in its demands for autonomy, particularly as Damascus appears ineffective in resolving the conflict and faces accusations of crimes against the Druze minority. Nevertheless, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said on Monday that his government fully supports al-Shara's administration and would not allow Syria to be partitioned, at least not yet. Over the weekend, Erdogan told journalists during a visit to northern Cyprus that al-Shara's firm stance on Swaida should serve as a clear message to the SDF that there will be no compromise on disarmament talks. In last week's meeting, Turkish officials requested that the YPG provide information on tunnel networks along the Turkish border and weapons depots established in civilian areas, according to the same sources speaking to Middle East Eye. Middle East Eye has asked the Turkish government for comment. Barak, who spoke to SDF leader Mazloum Abdi over the weekend, said this week that he doesn't believe the violence in Swaida will derail talks and that there could be a breakthrough in the coming weeks. Thanks, Kenny. Appreciate it. $1.99. You're a good man, Charlie Brown. Thank you. U.S. State Department officials speaking on condition of anonymity in accordance with government protocol said that while they could not discuss specifics of private diplomatic conversations, the integration talks between the SDF and the Syrian government remain ongoing and active. We support the continuation of these discussions as the best way to resolve any outstanding issues, the official said. So, join up or else. Dun, dun, dun. I don't know. They'll probably cave. They'll probably cave and say, sure, why not? We'll join up. Meanwhile, Turkey's talking with Kurdistan about that Earl, them delicious Earl. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Turkey seeks new deal for crucial Kurdistan oil pipeline. Turkey says, I want oil because Greece doesn't help. See, because Greece is a country. Turkey seeks to renegotiate the decades-long agreement with Iraq for the pipeline carrying oil from the semi-autonomous Iraqi region of Kurdistan to the Turkish port of Ceyhan on the Mediterranean, flows on which have been suspended for more than 2 years. The Turkey-Iraq crude oil pipeline agreement for the Kirkuk to Ceyhan line expires on July 27th next year, according to a Turkish decision published in the official Gazette on Monday. Turkey seeks to negotiate the agreement, which was first signed in 1973. An unnamed senior Turkish official told Reuters the pipeline could become a highly active and strategic pipeline for the region, the official added. A new and vibrant phase for the Iraq-Turkey pipeline will benefit both countries and the region as a whole, according to the Turkish official. It was not immediately clear what a potential new agreement Turkey would pursue, but it's clear that the country is unhappy with the underutilization of the pipeline, flows on which were suspended in March 2023 due to a dispute over who should authorize the Kurdish exports. Last week, Iraq's federal government said that oil exports from Kurdistan would resume immediately amid drone attacks on oil fields in Kurdistan last week, which have shut in about 200,000 barrels per day in production. The federal Iraqi government said on Thursday that the Kurdistan regional government would immediately begin delivering at least 230,000 barrels per day to Iraq's state oil marketing firm SOMO for SOMO. The exports would be carried out under a new agreement approved by the federal cabinet, Baghdad said last week. However, sources familiar with the matter told Reuters that the semi-autonomous Iraqi region isn't prepared to restart exports. A source close to APIKUR, the Association of International Companies Active in Kurdistan, told Reuters that the restart of exports depends on the signing of written agreements, which the companies have not yet received. It's just paperwork. They're waiting on the paperwork. That's all. We get this. Let's get it going, baby. What do we got? And Kurdistan got another surprise with water from Iran. And they're like, okay, what's up? Iran's surprise release of water in the Kurdistan region shocks locals. Look at all that water. Cool, clear water. Water. That was a Marty Robbins song, I think. This is Erbil, Kurdistan region. A sudden, unexplained release of water from Iran's western Sardash Dam has flooded the Little Zab River in the Kurdistan region, local officials said Monday, pushing water levels beyond those seen in the spring. The unexpected flow has brought relief to farmers, but raised questions about Tehran's motives. Without any prior warning or notification to us, Iran has released water from the Little Zab River source. Sparta Mohammed, director of water resources in Raparan, told Rudaw, that's where this is coming from. According to Mohammed, there is no agreement or coordination with Iran on managing water flow. We still don't know how and why Iran has been releasing this water for several days, which seems to be in their interests, as the level of release is increasing day by day. The Little Zab originates in the Zagros Mountains in western Iran, in Rojhelat, flowing southwest through Iran before crossing into the Kurdistan region. It then winds through northern Iraq before joining the Tigris near the disputed province of Kirkuk. In April, Mohammed warned the water levels in the river had dropped sharply compared to other years. Last year, the flow rate of the Little Zab River was 130 cubic meters per second at one point, but is now less than 36 cubic meters per second, she said at the time, blaming low rainfall, Iran's construction of Sardash Dam, and diversion of the river's water. The dam, an embankment dam located about 13 kilometers southeast of Sardash City, where the grass is green and the girls are pretty. Oh, won't you please take me home? Yeah, take me down to Sardash City. In Iran's West Azerbaijan province, which significantly affected downstream flows in recent years, Mohammed said the current release has completely revived the river. Like a little Viagra for the river there. This comes at a time when some areas in eastern Kurdistan's regional Suleimani province are facing a water shortage. Besides supporting agriculture and fish ponds, the Little Zab is the main water source for about 100,000 residents of Kaladze district in northern Suleimani province. Iran has repeatedly restricted the water's flow in the past. Water scarcity remains a severe problem in drought-hit Iraq, which the United Nations ranks as the fifth most vulnerable country in the world to climate change impacts like water and food insecurity. The crisis is worsened by the upstream Turkish and Iranian dams on rivers flowing into Iraq, leaving the country increasingly dry. What's his name? Ben Shapiro's wife. About 70% of its water originates outside the border. So what I'm thinking is Iran is like, the first thing they did, they warned Iraq, right? They warned Iraq. They said, hey, these assholes in Israel might attack you guys. Okay. I'm just saying. So they did that. And now they're like, releasing more water in Iraq. Iran is trying to have a bromance with Iraq. That's what it is. They had a war, several years ago. Now it's like they're trying to get the band back together. I think that's what's happening. Trying to build unity in the region is what it sounds like to me. And how do you do that? Instead of shooting at you, how about I give you some water? You like water? You better. Without it in 3 days and you're in that, that's it. Meanwhile, poor Bangladesh, man, they have enough problems already. But the Bangladesh Air Force plane crashes into a college campus, killing at least 31 there. What is wrong with these fucking planes, y'all? A Bangladesh Air Force training aircraft has crashed into a college and school campus in the capital, Dhaka, killing at least 31 people, including the pilot, according to the military. Hang on a second. Where are we at there? Okay. The F-7 BGI aircraft crashed into the campus of Milestone School and College in Dhaka's Uttara neighborhood at about 1 p.m. on local time on Monday when students were taking tests or attending regular classes. Jesus Christ. The pilot, Flight Lieutenant Mohammed Tukir Islam, made every effort to divert the aircraft away from densely populated areas towards a more sparsely inhabited location, the military said. I guess they didn't try very hard, adding that it would investigate the cause of the crash. It said on Monday that 171 people were injured in the incident. Several of the injured succumbed to their injuries overnight on Tuesday. Most of the injured were aged between 8 and 14, said Mohammed Maruf Islam, the joint director of Dhaka's National Burn and Plastic Surgery Institute, where many victims were treated. Sayyidur Rahman, the special assistant to the chief advisor for the Ministry of Health, told reporters early on Tuesday that at least 25 children were among those killed in the crash. Jesus Christ. Videos of the aftermath of the crash showed a big fire near a lawn, emitting a thick plume of smoke into the sky as crowds watched from a distance. Firefighters sprayed water on the mangled remains of the plane, which appeared to have rammed into the side of a building, damaging iron grills and creating a gaping hole in the structure. Social media videos show people screaming and crying as others tried to comfort them. When I was picking up my kids and went to the gate, I realized something came from behind. I heard an explosion. When I looked back, I only saw fire and smoke, Masood Tariq, a teacher at the school, told the Reuters news agency. Reporting from Dhaka, Al Jazeera's Tanvir Chowdhury said search and rescue operations appear to be coming to an end. Many of the victims are in severe condition in burn hospitals and other local hospitals. The interim government of Mohammed Yunus announced a day of national mourning on Tuesday. Yunus expressed deep grief and sorrow over the incident on a post on Twitter. The loss suffered by the Air Force, students, parents, teachers, and staff, and others in this accident is irreparable. He said. Yunus also announced that an emergency hotline had been activated at the National Institute of Burn and Plastic Surgery. In the wake of the crash, the Bangladesh Red Crescent Society called for donations for the injured. The incident came a little more than a month after an Air India plane crashed into a medical college hostel in neighboring India's Ahmedabad city, killing 241 of the 242 people on board and 19 on the ground, the world's worst aviation disaster in a decade. I'm not blaming Trump for the planes, but the timing, I mean, we've been having a shit ton of plane crashes and stuff this year, halfway through the year. The on-again, off-again love affair between Russia and Ukraine continues as Russia and Ukraine to hold another round of peace talks coming soon. This is from antiwar.com and Dave DeCamp. Russian and Ukrainian officials are set to hold another round of peace talks this week amid heavy fighting across the front line in Ukraine and as the two sides continue to trade major drone attacks. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced that the talks will take place tomorrow in Istanbul, not Constantinople, Turkey. Russian media confirmed the upcoming negotiations, stating that while the delegations may arrive on Wednesday, the talks will be held Thursday. You know, you got to have your pre-talk bash, you know, the mixers, you know, and everybody. According to the Russian news agency TASS, the Russian delegation will again be led by Vladimir Medinsky, an aide to Russian President Vladimir Putin, and the Ukrainian side will be led by Defense Minister Rustem Umerov. You rust 'em, you buy 'em. The negotiations will mark the first round of talks between the two sides in 7 weeks. The previous round of negotiations made little progress as the two sides were very far apart on their conditions to end the war, and it doesn't appear things will be much different this time around as Moscow has made clear that it won't give up on its goals despite an ultimatum from Trumpy to reach the deal in 50 days or face tariffs. Russia's main demands to end the war include Ukrainian neutrality and the recognition of the 4 oblasts Moscow annexed in 2022 as Russian territory, which would require a Ukrainian withdrawal from the territory it still controls in those areas. Zelensky hasn't shown any signs that he's willing to concede the territory as long as the U.S. and NATO continue to support his war, and that's where his coke dealer lives too. And he said, no way, that guy, he delivers, and he's just fucking awesome. The negotiations Russia and Ukraine held earlier this year marked the first peace talks since the early days of the war, which took place in March and April of 2022. At the time, Russia's main demand was for Ukrainian neutrality. Those efforts were discouraged by the Biden administration, of course, and later that year, Russia declared its annexation of 4 Ukrainian oblasts and added the recognition of that territory as part of Russia to its demands to end the war. So they want that territory. They're like, we're taking it out of Nazi hands. We're not giving it back to the Nazis. Sorry. You know, so they'll talk, but ain't nothing going to be solved this week. That's for sure. And probably not for quite some time, to be honest. Speaking of corrupt Ukrainians, Ukrainian anti-corruption investigators raided by security officials. How about that? The Anti-Corruption Bureau was raided. Investigators for Ukraine's National Anti-Corruption Bureau, or NABU, have been subjected to raids by security officials, allegedly without court warrants, the agency said on Monday. NABU, which is tasked with investigating top-level corruption, boy, I bet they've been busy, reported the incident as tensions allegedly grow between Vladimir Zelensky's administration and political opponents. The Ukrainian parliament, where Zelensky's party holds a majority, formed an ad hoc committee earlier this month to examine anti-corruption bodies, including NABU. Local media first reported the searches, citing sources within law enforcement who said several anti-corruption officers were suspected of collaborating with Russia and Ukrainian oligarchs. The Security Service of Ukraine, the SBU, subsequently made accusations against a senior NABU official who was accused of having ties with Russian special services. What's up, Kate? Good to see you, dear. Good morning to you. If I didn't say hi to you earlier. NABU was established in 2015 as part of judicial reforms aimed at meeting the expectations of Western governments and international leaders or lenders. Its mandate includes high-level corruption investigations, and it is currently probing former Unity Minister Alexei Chernyshev, as well as former Vice Prime Minister Olga Stefanishina, who has been tapped as Kiev's next ambassador to the U.S.
Give me cocaine. I want all the cocaine. I have TP for my bunghole.
Ukrainian media have described fraud charges issued this month against Vitaly Shabunin, an anti-graft NGO head and former member of NABU's Public Oversight Committee, as a blow to anti-corruption institutions. The press says public oversight bodies often serve as vehicles of Western influence in Ukraine. Some outlets have framed the ongoing pressure on NABU as part of a wider campaign by Zelensky to disempower individuals linked to the U.S. Democratic Party. Interesting. The news site Strana reported earlier this month that Zelensky's government was emboldened by the cuts of U.S. funding to foreign projects ordered by Trumpy, a Republican. Zelensky is currently dismantling the system of foreign control on which the U.S. and Europe spent a lot of effort and money since the 2014 armed coup in Kiev, Strana reported. Some Ukrainian political actors have reportedly turned to new financial backers, including former President Pyotr Poroshenko, prompting the ongoing escalation of tensions. Poroshenko, who has publicly pledged loyalty to Zelensky for as long as Ukraine's conflict with Russia continues, was sanctioned by the government earlier this year.
I want all the cocaine. I want it now. Give me. Give me.
Oh, look at all that cocaine. God damn. That's not cocaine. Or is it? It might be. Who knows? That's probably what it is. Weapons and cocaine. Or you put the cocaine in the weapons. CBC voter. Hello. Good to see you. Meanwhile, boy, you know, you think people hear that North Korea is pretty fucked up, but man, South Korea, I don't even know what's going on with those guys. As drone commander suspended over drone dispatch to North Korea, allegedly linked to martial law. The Defense Ministry said Monday it has suspended the head of the Drone Operations Command over suspicions that military drones were illegally dispatched to North Korea last year as part of preparations for former President Yoon Suk Yeol's imposition of martial law. Where are we at here? Okay, we still got a little ways to go. All right, we're good. So Major General Kim Yong-dae, commander of the unit, was separated from his duties Monday pending suspension, the Defense Ministry said, a day after an arrest warrant was sought for him in connection with the investigation into Yoon's failed martial law bid last December. A special counsel team led by Cho Yoon-suk filed for the warrant for Kim, who has been in custody on charges that include forging official documents. Uh-oh. The investigation team suspects Yoon gave direct orders to the drone commander in October last year to dispatch drones to North Korea without reporting to the Defense Ministry or the Joint Chiefs of Staff, aiming to provoke military provocations from North Korea to allegedly justify the martial law imposition. See, they sell you the problem and the solution. The Seoul Central District Court, however, rejected the warrant request Monday, noting a detention would excessively restrict his defense rights. Kim has squarely denied his role, refuting any connection between the drone dispatch to the north and Yoon's martial law declaration, and arguing that the drone dispatch proceeded legally under the JCS's orders as part of response measures to the North's balloon campaigns against the South. Oh, the trash balloons that North Korea was floating over there. So what would happen? South Korea would blast all this music over the DMZ, and North Korea would send these balloons full of garbage over there. Wow. Weirdest fucking war. If that ever becomes a hot war, they're probably just going to like slap each other in the faces. They're not even going to use weapons. You know, not the face, not the face, not the face. We were talking about that dam in dam in Iran and them letting loose some water for Kurdistan. Well, China is building a huge, probably the biggest dam in the world as far as like hydroelectrics. As China starts construction on world's biggest hydropower dam in Tibet. China has started building a mega dam on the Yarlung-Zangbo River in Tibet, which could become the world's largest source of hydroelectric power when completed, according to Chinese officials. The mega project in the foothills of the Himalayas will include 5 hydropower stations on the river, which is also known as the Brahmaputra, further downstream in India, and the Jamuna River in Bangladesh, which at that point the river is like full of garbage. China's Xinhua State News Agency reported that Premier Li Qiang attended a commencement ceremony for the dam on Saturday. Beijing had planned to planned the project for several years, and approval was given in December last year, linking the development to the country's carbon neutrality targets and economic goals in the Tibet region. The electricity generated will be primarily transmitted to other regions for consumption, while also meeting local power needs in Tibet, Xinhua reported after the groundbreaking ceremony in southeastern Tibet city of Ningxi. The project is expected to cost an estimated 1.2 trillion won. Won is the loneliest number, or $167.1 billion American, Xinhua said. India said in January that it had raised concerns with China about the project, saying it would monitor and take necessary measures to protect our interests. National security. Kill your egregories. Hello, kill. Good to see you. We'll be watching. We're keeping our eyes on you there, China. India's Ministry of External Affairs said at the time that China, quote, has been urged to ensure that the interests of the downstream states of the Brahmaputra are not harmed by activities in upstream areas. The water wars, that's what's coming. In December, Beijing's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the project would not have any negative impact downstream, adding that China will also maintain communication with countries at the lower reaches of the river. China annexed Tibet in 1950 and has built several dams on the region's rivers, prompting concerns from Tibetans about the potential impacts on the unique ecosystems of the Tibetan Plateau. Tibet's vast glaciers and major rivers provide fresh water to 1.3 billion people in 10 countries, according to Yale's E360 Environmental Magazine. The Yarlung-Zangpo is the world's highest river, reaching some 5,000 meters or 16,404 feet above sea level, and is considered sacred to Tibetans. The new dam is also being built just 18 miles from China's vast border with India, much of which is disputed, with tens of thousands of soldiers posted on either side. Once built, the dam could provide as much as 3 times as much energy as the Three Gorges Dam on the Yangtze River in central China. The Three Gorges Dam, which was completed in 2003, controversially displaced some 1.4 million people. Yikes. Tibet is much more sparsely populated, with some 2,000 people displaced for the construction of the Yagan hydropower station in 2015, according to local media reports. Yeah. So building dams, right? And that's the thing. These water wars are coming. And no matter, gold, these things, all this, this shit for batteries and stuff, the lithium and stuff. That's all well and good. But the real wars are going to be for water. Because once the fresh water starts going away and you don't have any desalination plants or anything like that, people start dropping off within days, right? You don't have water for 3 days. That's a wrap. So, we have Chinese debt, right, in the form of treasuries. And now the Chinese are like, I don't know. Chinese holdings of U.S. treasuries plummet as Beijing reduces U.S. dollar reliance. And you're going to start seeing more and more countries get froggy and start jumping this way too. And then the dollar's just going to be shit around the world. And, well, there you go. That's the end of empire. China's U.S. Treasury holdings fell to their lowest level since 2009 in May this year, currently standing at a total of $756.3 billion, according to data released by the U.S. Treasury Department. This marked the third consecutive month of decline, coming in response to growing concern over renewed trade tensions between Washington and Beijing. The data shows that Chinese holdings of U.S. Treasuries have fallen to a new low since then. Beijing has reduced its exposure by almost $1 billion from the number reported in April this year. China significantly decreased its exposure to U.S. debt by almost $19 billion in March, bringing it down to third place among top holders of treasuries after Japan and the UK. The Chinese government sold $8.2 billion in U.S. debt in April. In the following month, it further reduced treasury holdings by $900 million. The move falls in line with recommendations from Chinese analysts about diversifying exposure to risky assets. They downgraded the United States, their credit score. I think the ideal approach would be to increase imports and utilize the excess foreign exchange reserves to purchase high-tech capital goods and strategic materials. This could require China to narrow its trade surplus, move toward a basic balance in the trade of goods and services, or even run a trade deficit for a while, said Yu Yongding in the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. Yongding. Okay. Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. We must closely monitor the U.S. fiscal situation and prepare contingency plans to avoid being caught off guard, he added. Beijing is aiming to reduce its reliance on U.S. government debt. Selling U.S. bonds has helped China manage the value of its currency. It has been shifting towards more reliable assets such as gold and other metals. 3 straight months of this decline could signal a potential trend. China's unloading of U.S. treasuries also stems from concerns that bond prices may fall, pushing up interest rates. Earlier this year, a brief trade war erupted between Beijing and Washington. Beijing imposed high levies on U.S.-sourced natural gas imports in response to Trumpy sweeping tariffs on Chinese exports. China and the U.S. agreed on May 12th to remove most of the tariffs imposed on each other. Earlier this month, President Trump threatened to impose additional tariffs on any country affiliated with the BRICS group of emerging economies, of which China is a leading member. They're the C in BRICS. The U.S. president made the threat early on July 7th in a post on his Truth Social platform, what I like to call the Crybaby Bitch Network, a coalition initially comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. BRICS expanded for the first time since 2010 at the start of last year, to include Egypt, Iran, Ethiopia, and the UAE. After Russia became the most sanctioned nation in the world following the start of the war in Ukraine in 2022, the BRICS bloc began pursuing the creation of a common currency to de-dollarize trade and circumvent Western sanctions. China has recently been working on strengthening its local currency and reducing reliance on the U.S. dollar. The People's Bank of China Governor Pan Gongsheng discussed in a speech last month a roadmap for how to weaken excessive reliance on a single sovereign currency. The bank governor announced plans to establish a center for internationalizing digital yuan exchange and promote trade in the Chinese currency. Best not fuck with the dollar. Here come democracy. You know, ask Libya about that. Muammar Gaddafi knew about that. He tried to get off the petrodollar, and then what happened? We shift over to the United States and the fuckery here. Investigators exploring whether grenades found at an apartment caused blast that killed 3 LA deputies. Yeah, authorities are looking into whether grenades recovered from a Santa Monica apartment complex were the cause of an explosion last week. I'm pretty sure they were, at a Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department training facility that killed 3 members of its arson and explosives unit. The 3 members had assisted local police following the discovery on Thursday of grenades at an apartment complex in Santa Monica. Meanwhile, as detectives chase leads into the origins of the grenades following the deadly blast at the Biscaluz training facility, investigators served a search warrant Monday morning at an address in the Marina del Rey neighborhood. The department didn't say what, if anything, was found. It was not known whether the grenades had any connection to the military. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department spokesperson Nicole Nishida said investigators were looking at all leads. The deaths early Friday marked the department's worst loss of life in a single incident since 1857, when 4 officers were killed by gunfire, LA County Sheriff Robert Luna said. Also, remember, the LA County Sheriff's Department is a big old gang. Not a gang of good guys either. The department identified the deputies who died as Detective Joshua Kelly Eklund, Detective Victor Lemus, and Detective William Osborne. They served 19, 22, and 33 years in the department, respectively, Luna said. Boom, boom, boom. Right? Crazy stuff. Meanwhile, down in the alligator patch there, Alligator Alcatraz, we've had to eat like dogs. Report details abusive practices at Florida immigrant prisons. So let me bring this in a little bit. Okay. A new report released yesterday by Human Rights Watch details what the organization describes as abusive practices at 3 immigrant detention facilities in the state of Florida. The report documents conditions for detained immigrants at Florida's Chrome North Service Processing Center, that's Chrome with a K, the Broward Transitional Center, the BTC, and the Federal Detention Center, FDC, during the period of January through June of this year. And it alleges that all 3 facilities, quote, flagrantly violate international human rights standards and the U.S. government's own immigration detention standards. Among other things, the report shows that the number of detainees at the facilities at times has been up to 3 times their operational capacity, and includes stories from detainees who describe being shackled for prolonged periods of time on buses without access to food, water, or functioning toilets. Detainees also said they were forced to sleep on cold concrete floors under constant fluorescent lighting and were denied access to basic hygiene and health care. This report finds that staff at the 3 detention facilities, researchers examined subjected detained individuals to dangerously substantiated medical care or substandard medical care, overcrowding, abusive treatment, and restrictions on access to legal and psychosocial support, writes Human Rights Watch. In our own country, you have Human Rights Watch. Officers denied detainees critical medication and detained some incommunicado in solitary confinement as an apparent punishment for seeking mental health care. Human Rights Watch collected information for its report from interviews with 11 current or former detainees at the facilities, as well as with family members of detainees and more than a dozen immigration lawyers. One woman detained at the Chrome facility described being subjected to unsanitary conditions when she first arrived there in late January. There was only one toilet and it was covered in feces, she said. We begged the officers to let us clean it, but they just said sarcastically, housekeeping will come soon, and no one ever came. Detainees at the facilities, 2 of which are operated by private companies with ICE oversight, also described being subjected to cruel and degrading treatment by their guards, including one man who described himself and his fellow detainees being forced to eat meals with their hands shackled behind their backs. We had to bend over and eat off the chairs with our mouths like dogs, he told Human Rights Watch. Detainees also said that people who made requests for mental health treatment were regularly sent off to solitary confinement as punishment. If you ask for help, they isolate you, one woman explained to Human Rights Watch. If you cry, they might take you away for 2 weeks, so people stay silent. The Human Rights Watch report on conditions at Florida detention centers come just weeks after Florida opened a new mass detention facility for immigrants dubbed Alligator Alcatraz that has already drawn complaints of cruel and degrading treatment from both detainees and from local lawmakers who have visited the facility. I saw 32 people per cage, about 6 cages in one tent, said Representative Maxwell Frost, a Democrat out of Florida, after a trip to the facility earlier this month. People were yelling, "Help me, help me." Yeah. Concentration camps in America. Right? Just like World War II. Oh, they're detention camps. You know, we want to make sure that, yeah. What's up, Peace Dub? Good to see you. 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 And Mystery, too. What's up, Mystery? Good to see you this morning. Who else snuck in here? Anybody else? Bueller? Orange Whip? We good? Okay. Yeah, and you know that Alligator Alcatraz down there. All these fucking places are just going to be fucked up death traps for people because that's where they were last time. The kids in cages. Remember that shit? Kids in cages. Cool. And finally, in our news block, Venezuela investigating alleged mistreatment of migrants. Trump sent to El Salvador. So Venezuela's Attorney General's office said on Monday that it has opened an investigation into El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele for alleged mistreatment and human rights violations against Venezuelan migrants. The migrants in question spent months detained in a maximum security prison in the Central American country after being deported by the U.S. Attorney General Tarek William Saab said his office decided to open the probe after some of the migrants informed Venezuelan authorities of the alleged mistreatment. The investigation includes El Salvador's Justice Minister Gustavo Villatoro and the head of the prison system, Osiris Luna. More than 250 migrants were held since March in a mega prison known as the Terrorism Confinement Center, or affectionately known as CCOT, which was built to hold alleged gang members in Bukele's war on the country's gangs. They were released on Friday by El Salvador in exchange for 10 U.S. nationals jailed in Venezuela as part of a 3-country arrangement. Bukele's office didn't reply immediately to a request for comment. So Venezuela saying, hey, you're mistreating our people. Meanwhile, the U.S. says, fuck it, we'll send you down there. You want to come back? Not our problem. And El Salvador is like, no, actually, you could probably take them back if you wanted to, but you don't want to. Yep, there you are. That's your news block. Hope you enjoyed that. And by joy, I mean, was managed to stomach that. I don't normally talk about AOC and the bullshit that she says, but you have to call out bullshit when you see it. And unfortunately, AOC still has some sway with people, and we have to make sure that we educate those people. What's up, Ellen? Good to see you. I really want people to understand mainstream media has focused more attention on Trump than it did for previous administrations. There is not one thing reported that did not happen under Biden, Obama, Bush, Clinton. It is a difference of scale, not kind. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, Trump's the squeaky wheel that gets the oil, right? That's what gets, that's ratings, baby. He's ratings. That's what it's all about. AOC saying that, we need to call out Israel, but does she really? Probably not. I don't think so.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
All right, AOC tries to defend vote against amendment to cut $500 million in Israeli military aid. So we told you earlier about Marjorie Taylor Greene proposing to cut the $500 million for funding for Israel's missile defense programs. And well, it's like I keep saying, it's not what you say, it's what you do or don't do. And well, here we go. U.S. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is trying to explain away her no vote on an amendment to the 2026 National Defense Authorization Act. The amendment introduced by Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene would have cut $500 million in U.S. funding for nuclear-armed Israel's missile defense programs.
People exploding this false messaging that I voted for a bill and funding that I quite literally voted no on. The threat environment this morning is scary,
the progressive lawmaker wrote on Blue Sky Monday afternoon. I'm not doing that voice again. That hurts. Doesn't help anyone. Drag me for the position if you disagree, but don't lie. It's out of control. Saying I voted for this funding is false. If you believe neo-Nazis are welcome and operating in good faith, you can have them, she said on Twitter's. Earlier in the day, NBC4 New York reported that AOC's Bronx congressional office was doused with red paint overnight. A sign was posted outside that read, AOC funds genocide in Gaza. Ocasio-Cortez joined 421 of her colleagues in the House of Representatives in voting against the Green Amendment, which only received the 6 votes, as we told you before. The amendment would have prevented the Department of Defense from strengthening Israel's air and defense missile defense systems, including the Iron Dome. It would have prevented Congress from effectively abrogating the Symington Amendment to the International Security Assistance and Arms Exports Control Act of 1976, which bans the provision of U.S. military aid to any country that develops nuclear weapons technology in contravention of safeguards imposed by the IAEA. So they have a nuclear program that's not being monitored. Gee, I wonder why. What's up, Sean? Good morning. Ocasio-Cortez's latest comments comes days after she initially tried to head off concerns about her vote. Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment does nothing to cut off offensive aid to Israel, nor end the flow of U.S. munitions being used in Gaza. Of course, I voted against it, she wrote on Twitter Saturday morning. What it does do is cut off defensive Iron Dome capabilities, which, while allowing the actual bombs killing Palestinians to continue, I have long stated that I do not believe that adding to the death count of innocent victims to this war is constructive to its end. And if you don't remember, like the Iron Dome, these facilities are stationed in civilian areas of Israel, basically using their own people as human shields. I remain focused on cutting the flow of U.S. munitions that are being used to perpetuate the genocide in Gaza. AOC's no vote earned her a rebuke from the Democratic Socialists of America. There's trouble in paradise with the DSA. An arms embargo means keeping all arms out of the hands of a genocidal military, no exceptions. This is why we oppose AOC's vote against an amendment that would have blocked $500 million in funding for the Israeli military's Iron Dome program, the DSA wrote on Saturday. You think AOC gives a fuck about the DSA anymore? Shit, she's touring with Bernie. Fight the oligarchy. She's got her own shit going on. She don't need these fuckers anymore. You know. And there's still people that believe her ass. All right. Meanwhile, Israel blocks visa for top UN official after Gaza comments. Huh? What? Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar on Sunday said he had ordered the withdrawal of a senior UN humanitarian official's residency permit, accusing him of spreading lies about the war in Gaza. I have instructed not to extend the residency permit of the head of the OCHA, that's UN, the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, office in Israel, Jonathan Woodall, Sarah wrote on the X. Woodall, a South African who lives in Jerusalem and frequently visits the Gaza Strip, has repeatedly condemned the humanitarian conditions for the more than 2 million people living in the Palestinian territory. In April, he said that Gazans were slowly dying due to the effects of Israel's war against Hamas militants. Sarr's decision, which he said came after biased and hostile conduct against Israel, which distorted reality and broke UN neutrality rules, is the latest taken against senior UN officials. Since the war began in October 2023, Israel has made it harder to get visas for those working for OCHA, the UN Human Rights Officer, OHCHR, and the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA. Yeah, they do not like those people at all. U.S. officials called Netanyahu a madman for bombing Syria despite U.S. opposition. Oh, BB, as things are crumbling for Israel. When your girlfriend gets mad at you. Axios reported on Sunday that White House officials were frustrated with Bibi due to Israel's recent airstrikes in Damascus, which came as the U.S. was urging Israel not to bomb Syria. Bibi acted like a madman. He bombs everything all the time, one White House official told the outlet. This could undermine what Trump is trying to do, because Trump wants to bomb everything. He didn't before, but he wants to now. The Trump administration has been pushing for a normalization deal between Israel and the new Syrian government, which is led by Ahmed al-Shara, the founder of al-Qaeda in Syria, who took over Damascus in December last year. Another White House official pointed to the Israeli tank shelling of the Seoul Catholic Church in Gaza, which killed 3 Christians. The feeling is that every day there is something new. What the fuck, the official said. A third official said that Netanyahu is sometimes like a child who just doesn't behave. Now, I don't know many children who have temper tantrums and commit genocide, but whatever. The report noted that it was unclear whether President Trump shared the official's frustration with Bibi. Trump has recently shown strong support for him by calling for an end to his corruption trial and hosting the Israeli leader at the White House for a game of pick-up sticks with their butt cheeks for the 3rd time within 6 months. A senior Israeli official said that Tel Aviv was surprised by the U.S.'s unhappiness over the Syria strikes, since Trump had encouraged Israel to hold Syrian territory it had captured and hadn't previously criticized Israel's interventions in the country. Israel celebrated the regime change that ousted former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, but used the HTS takeover as a pretext to invade southern Syria. Never let a bad opportunity go wasted. The Axios report didn't indicate that U.S. officials were frustrated by Israel's genocidal war on Gaza and the daily massacres of women, children, and unarmed Palestinian civilians seeking aid. There was also no indication that the U.S. was considering ending or leveraging military aid to Israel, which Israel relies on to sustain its murderous bullshit. Yeah. We're mad at you, but we're still going to give you weapons. I just can't quit you. You and me, let's do some math. You and me are just too much. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if you heard about this. Colbert, the late night show, which I know, sad news, right? But apparently they're still making a big deal about it. As the Writers Union calls for a bribery probe of Paramount after Colbert cancellation. There he is right there. Hey, God, he just looks like a Karen, doesn't he? Like, what are you doing barbecuing in the park? The Writers Guild of America is calling on New York's Attorney General to launch a bribery investigation into Paramount Global following the cancellation of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. WGA, some of whose members worked on the CBS show, said in a statement that while cancellations are part of the business, a corporation terminating a show in bad faith due to explicit or implicit political pressure is dangerous and unacceptable in a democratic society. Indeed. Paramount's decision comes against a backdrop of relentless attacks on a free press by Trump through lawsuits against CBS and ABC, threatened litigation of media organizations with critical coverage, and the unconscionable defunding of PBS and NPR, the union said. WGA noted that the show's cancellation, which CBS insisted was a purely financial decision, came after Colbert criticized Paramount's $16 million settlement of a lawsuit brought by Trump. In a July 15th segment aired 48 hours prior to his show's cancellation, Colbert called the settlement with Trump a big fat bribe aimed at greasing federal approval of Paramount's pending merger with the entertainment company Skydance. Paramount owns CBS, and Paramount's controlling shareholder, Sherry Redstone, has reportedly been monitoring the network's coverage of the president. The day of the Colbert segment, the CEO of Skydance met with Federal Communications Commissioner Chair Brendan Carr to discuss the pending merger. In its statement, WGA urged New York Attorney General Letitia James to investigate potential wrongdoing at Paramount, which is headquartered in New York City. Given Paramount's recent capitulation to Trump in the CBS News lawsuit, the Writers Guild of America has significant concerns that the Late Show's cancellation is a bribe sacrificing free speech to curry favor with the Trump administration as the company looks for merger approval, the union said. We call on our elected leaders to hold these responsible to account, to demand answers about why this beloved program was canceled, and to assure the public that Colbert and his writers were not censored due to their views or the whims of the president. Ahead of the official settlement announcement, California's Senate launched an investigation into whether Paramount violated state laws against bribery and unfair competition by offering Trump $15 million to end the legal fight. Semaphore reported. After news of the settlement deal broke earlier this month, Democratic U.S. senators called for a federal investigation. Really? With Paramount folding to Trump at the same time, the company needs his administration's approval for its billion-dollar merger. This could be bribery in plain sight, the snake lady said in a statement. That would be Elizabeth Warren. Paramount has refused to provide answers to a congressional inquiry, so I'm calling for a full investigation into whether or not any anti-bribery laws were broken. Fucking chicken-headed lady-ass motherfucker. Yes, thank you all for supporting this channel. You're all peaches. I appreciate you. So run your mouth. You get canceled. You know what? Food for thought. Stephen Colbert was allowed to leave the Comedy Central on his own terms. Not so much with CBS. So that tells you how. Once you go big, and they come after you. You know. Not Irish. He's Irish, not French. Yeah, Irish. And like half his family's dead too. It's really weird. So more fuckery when you call for the Epstein files. What does the Trump administration do? He says, let's release MLK files instead. Come on, y'all. Let's talk about that guy. He was a bad guy too. Don't y'all remember? You know, he always cheating on his wife and shit. That's what they want. Amid calls for Epstein files, Trump administration releases 230,000 MLK documents that nobody asked for. Trumpy and congressional Republicans stonewall efforts to keep the full files on deceased financier and convicted child sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein under wraps. The director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, on Monday released a long-anticipated massive trove of documents related to the 1968 assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., despite opposition from his family, which we all know was the feds capped him. Come on. Today, after nearly 60 years of questions surrounding the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, we are releasing 230,000 MLK assassination files, available now at the archives.gov/MLK, Gabbard said on the social tweeters. The documents include details about the FBI's investigation into the assassination of MLK, discussions of potential leads, internal FBI memos detailing the process of the case, Information about James Earl Ray's former cellmate, who stated he discussed with Ray an alleged assassination plot, and more. Thanks to Trumpy's leadership, Executive Order 14176 resulted in 3 unprecedented interagency efforts to identify, digitize, declassify, and release files related to the federal government's investigations into the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. King, whose last names all ended in K, and that's probably not a good thing. However, many of the MLK documents remain heavily redacted, of course. You can release documents, but if they're redacted, what's the point? Responding to the MLK Files publication, the King family said in a statement, as the children of Dr. King and Miss Coretta Scott King, his tragic death has been an intensely personal grief, a devastating loss for his wife, children, and the granddaughter he never met. An absence our family has endured for 57 years. We ask those who engage with the release of these files to do so with empathy, restraint, and respect for our family's continuing grief. Nah, fam, why should we do that? We need to get people away from this Epstein shit. The King family reiterated their belief that someone other than James Earl Ray was the shooter and that Mr. Ray was set up to take the blame. As we review these newly released files, we will assess whether they offer additional insights beyond the findings our family has already accepted, their statement said. As his relatives noted, the FBI infamously surveilled King, America's most hated man, according to a 1968 Harris poll that showed the civil rights icon with a 75% negative approval rating under the notorious COINTEL program, especially after his civil rights activism evolved into staunch critiques of U.S. militarism during the escalating Vietnam War and capitalism-driven economic inequality. Then Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy authorized the wiretapping of King's phone, with the head agent in charge of COINTELPRO, William Sullivan, warning that we must mark King as the most dangerous Negro of the future in this nation. This just before King was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in '64 for helping to lead the struggle against Jim Crow segregation and disenfranchisement. The FBI systematically bugged King's home and hotel rooms, mailed an anonymous letter urging him to kill himself, and even sent a tape of what it claimed was King having one of his numerous alleged affairs to his wife. When King criticized the FBI for ignoring the heinous and often murderous crimes of the Ku Klux Klan, and other white supremacists who were still lynching black people with alarming regularity and impunity, and infuriated Hoover, that would be J. Edgar Hoover, publicly called him the most notorious liar in America. People from across the political spectrum took to social media to slam the MLK document dump as a desperate attempt to distract from the Trump administration's decision to block the release of the Epstein files, despite earlier promises, as the Twitter account Republicans Against Trump portrayed the move. Prominent attorney and Democratic strategist Aaron Parnas wrote on the social media site Blue Sky whether through releasing the MLK files or trying to prosecute Obama, Trump is flooding the zone with information to distract you from the Epstein files. Bernice King, MLK's granddaughter and CEO of the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change, wrote on Twitter's, "Now do the Epstein files." Exactly. It's a fucking distraction. CJ, what's up? It is it's a distraction because nobody, he said, we should forget about the Epstein file. That was the worst thing Trump could have probably said. Because now people are like, oh, we should forget? Really? It's opposite day. Yeah, of course. And people should never let that story die. That those poor kids, and it's still going on, and it's not just Epstein, it's going on around the world. And people don't seem to give a fuck about human trafficking or anything about these kids, you know. They're just worried about themselves. Meanwhile, the White House ousts Wall Street Journal from Scotland press pool over the Epstein report. Trumpy's White House once again retaliated against the Wall Street Journal days after it published a story about a sexually explicit birthday card that Trump reportedly gave to late billionaire sex offender Jeffrey Epstein to celebrate his 50th birthday back in 2003. Politico reports that the Journal has been removed from the pool of reporters who are tagging along with the president during his upcoming trip to Scotland. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, you know her, straight out of that Barbie box, told Politico that the move was a direct response to the Rupert Murdoch-owned paper's decision to publish a story about the card Trump allegedly sent to Epstein, whom authorities have concluded died by suicide in prison in 2019 while awaiting trial for sex trafficking charges. Then we all know that's bullshit. Due to the Wall Street Journal's fake and defamatory conduct, they will... Oh, this is Leavitt speaking.
Due to the Wall Street Journal's fake and defamatory conduct, they will not be one of the 13 outlets on board,
Leavitt said.
Every news organization in the entire world wishes to cover President Trump, and the White House has taken significant steps to include as many voices as possible, except for you meanies at the Wall Street Journal.
A spokesperson for the Journal declined to comment when contacted by Politico. According to the Journal's reporting, the card Trump sent to Epstein contained several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked lady, which appears to be hand-drawn with a heavy marker and features the future president's signature as a squiggly Donald below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. Trump quickly filed a libel lawsuit against the paper that sought at least $20 billion in damages for what it described as glaring failures of journalistic ethics and standards of accurate reporting, saying that his name was not pubic hair, rather that it was supposed to be a landing strip or maybe like a little Brazilian, you gotta kind of get it shaved on the sides there. A Wall Street Journal parent company, Dow Jones, stood by the paper's reporting in the wake of the Trump lawsuit and said that we have full confidence in the rigor and accuracy of our reporting. The Trump administration earlier this year revoked the AP's access because it refused to refer to the body of water known as the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. Remember that bullshit? Ain't nobody else calling that the Gulf of America. It's fucking Gulf of idiots thinking that shit. What's next? Oh, yeah, okay. So finally, in our propaganda watch, like I said, we were talking about Peter Thiel and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. In our polls here, like, who do you think was the big perv? So looking at this, at our things here. So our poll here on our YouTube chat has 38% it says either neither or both were equally in charge of the client list being the client list kingpin. 19% said Jeffrey, 8% think it's Peter Thiel who's running the show. And then over here, let me look at this real quick on the tweeters with is that still the same? Did I do that? What is this? Okay. Yeah, so about the same over there. Yeah, and all right, so where am I? Okay, very good. All right. When you're running this by yourself, it gets a little confusing sometimes. So, in this video that here from James Lee, he talks about this. This is why I brought the poll up, because he talks about how how Jeffrey Epstein was running a lot of shit, but may actually have been the middleman. So let's check this out from James. It's about 7.5 minutes, but it's worth it.
Everybody's talking about Jeffrey Epstein right now. The list, who was on the jet, the island, his ties to intelligence, how he died, if he's even dead. But almost no one is talking about the billionaire who is basically, I think, Epstein 2.0. And the person I'm referring to is, of course, Peter Thiel.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would,
this is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit in this.
Should the human race survive?
Yes, the guy who is not so sure whether or not humans should exist. Now, some background on Thiel. He was the co-founder of PayPal alongside Elon Musk. He was also the first major investor in Facebook. Coincidentally, I don't know if you know this, founded on the same day DARPA ended their LifeLog program, which was a program sought to, quote, trace the threads of an individual's life in terms of events, states, and relationship. That sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? He also co-founded Palantir, a data analytics and surveillance company used by many government intel and military agencies, including the CIA, NSA, ICE, and the IDF. Now, Thiel, like Epstein, has been known to host a sex party or two in his prime. Ben Goggins of NBC News wrote that Thiel's parties have been, quote, legendary in gay circles for years and repeatedly characterized as debaucherous, with Thiel himself being quoted as saying, "Yeah, we know how to have some no-holds-barred gay fun." Thiel has also been working on building his own island in the French Polynesia to basically establish a kind of a non-governmental colony. Now, just to be clear, there's no record that implicates Thiel in Epstein's illegal underage sex trafficking operation, but what has been well documented now are their ties in academics and business.
You know, nobody is talking about this. Peter Thiel, it's obvious to me that he fits in on that academic side of the Jeffrey Epstein operation. He worked with all of these people and he held academic symposiums at Little St. James, at the island. But what's so crazy about this that I don't think a lot of people are focused on is that there are many survivors that have come out now in the last 5 years saying that they weren't just sexually abused.
I woke up in a laboratory there one night, but there were scientists there, you know, and I woke up one night in a laboratory, paralyzed and naked on a table. They did something to me and they don't want anyone knowing about it. And I came back from there, I was hospitalized 10 times with panic attacks. And I'd been a very, very healthy, happy girl before I was taken.
That, by the way, was a clip from a new podcast that I'm co-hosting called Today-ish. Everybody should subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And we get into some pretty interesting things, including things that the mainstream won't talk about, as you just saw there, which I think also begs the question, what else were these guys up to on that island? Right, it has been widely reported that Peter Thiel has been injecting himself for years with young people's blood. Allegedly, he's been spending $40,000 a quarter on regular transfusions from 18-year-olds. Yeah, is it starting to make sense now, his transhumanist vision and why he can't give a straightforward answer on whether or not he thinks humans should exist? Because I think if it isn't evident yet, it should be now that his vision for the future is clearly aimed at achieving some kind of post-human state where these elites ostensibly control every aspect of society. Which brings me to a company called Carbon, which is an Israeli-founded tech company that develops real-time surveillance and emergency response systems. They market themselves as a next-gen 911 platform with software that gives governments and agencies the ability to access your smartphone camera and mic in real time and integrates biometric tracking, geolocation, and live streaming into a single feed sent directly to law enforcement or intelligence hubs. And guess who funded the company? Peter Thiel, Jeffrey Epstein, and Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister of Israel. Because if there is a group of guys I trust with real-time surveillance of the American population, it's Israelis and the guy who said, "I no longer believe freedom and democracy are compatible." Yeah, Peter Thiel, he really said that. Look it up if you don't believe me. Now, interestingly, last month, the New York Times published an investigation that showed in 2015 and 2016, Epstein put $40 million into two funds managed by Valar Ventures, a New York City VC firm that was co-founded by Peter Thiel. That information is new and has not been previously reported or publicly disclosed. I mean, just look at the web of powerful people that Peter Thiel is tied to, right? People like Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Mark Andreessen, Sam Altman, Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance. And what's also alarming is his insane reach into the Trump government. Just look at the number of people he's connected to in the executive office of the president. You have, of course, Elon Musk through PayPal, tying into Doge. You have through Palantir his ties to the Office of Management and Budget. He's also tied into the Office of Science and Technology Policy through David Sachs, from his relationship with the Stanford Review and Thiel Capital, all the way up to the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, vis-a-vis his funding of his Ohio U.S. Senate campaign. So to recap, islands, check. Sex parties, check. Obsession with the youth, check. Ties to Israel, check. Intelligence ties, check. Influence over government, double check. But the biggest difference And I want to emphasize this. There's a huge difference between Epstein and Thiel, and this is kind of crazy to think about. Epstein was more than likely just the middleman. Thiel might just be the architect. My name is James Lee. This is the 5149 Show. Let me know what you think. Is Peter Thiel the new Epstein, or perhaps something even worse? Drop your theories in the comments below, and if you want more exposés the mainstream media won't touch, please like, subscribe, and share this video so together we can expose these sick people for who they really are.
You know, I met Epstein a few times as well. It was basically, and I you know, didn't check, didn't ask enough questions about it. But I think there were sort of a lot of things where it was fraudulent. I do think Epstein knew a lot about taxes, and there were probably, you know, these complicated ways you could structure a nonprofit organization, especially as a way in a marital context that I think Epstein might have known a decent amount about.
Yeah, it sounds like he's not used to being around humans at all. Ugh. This is why that story cannot die, because it leads to other people. And you said, well, if they release the client list, who cares? What's going to be done about it? Well, a lot of people will be exposed, and it would be interesting to see what happens to those people once they're exposed, right? All hell could break loose. And maybe we need that. Maybe we need all hell to break loose. You know, and of course they're going to blame Ghislaine and probably let her be the fall person for it, you know. But don't let that story die, because it's not just for clickbaity shit like that. It's because we need to expose this human trafficking and all the shit that's going on around the world. Expose this evil once and for all. That's it for the show for this part. Well, no, we got stuff coming up here in a second. I always forget this part. We have actually 2 little fun stories coming up. But before then, I just want to remind you, our buddy Kevin's coming up probably in about an hour and 45 minutes on YouTube and on he's on X. I think he's on Rumble. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But he's definitely on YouTube. If you could donate to his GoFundMe to help him out. He lost his home in the LA fires. Every little bit helps. If not, if you could share out the links, that works too as well. So, like we said, Willie had his show this morning, and believe Dee will have her show again around the world, Dee and Friends, this evening. It's always a good discussion there for her. And finally today, we have, like I said, we got 2 fun little stories for you. We don't like to leave you with bad news. So apparently there's a killer in California, or there's a killer on the loose that's killing blow-up dolls, because reported person stuck in California canal turns out to be a blow-up doll. This is from Fox 26. This is so this is the area here where the alleged blow-up doll was found. Oh no! Oh, so much life, so much air left. Okay, you get the gist. A 911 call about a person trapped in the rushing waters of a canal led emergency responders in California to the discovery of a discarded blow-up doll. Fresno police and firefighters were summoned to the canal, or the sea anal, as it's sometimes called by little children, near McKinley and Peach Avenues, on a report of a person possibly deceased trapped against a grate by the rushing water. They arrived to find that what initially appeared to be a body was in fact a life-size blow-up doll. Authorities alerted the irrigation district to have the doll removed, to which the irrigation person said, "Man, well, this blows." See, police in New Zealand responded to a similar situation last year when a woman walking with her dogs on Tapao Beach spotted what appeared to be the headless body of a woman washed up in the sand, but police arrived on the scene and discovered the apparent corpse was actually a realistic adult toy. Wow. Let's not save the blow-up dolls, huh? No love? And finally, a woman flooded with calls about non-existent cat due to a t-shirt. Okay, so this is, I don't know if you see it. So a missing cat and all this information. Apparently, they put this real lady's phone number on here as a joke. A British Columbia woman's phone has been flooded with calls about cat calls about a missing cat that doesn't exist, and it's all because of a t-shirt. Natasha Lavoie and Jonathan McCurrick said dozens of calls have come in from people claiming to have found their cat Torbo, but their cat is named Masur and isn't missing. Sometimes, like 6 times a day, I'm getting these really random phone calls and people leaving me voicemail saying that they found my cat, giggity, and they want money for my cat, giggity. I don't know if they're talking about your actual cat there, lady. Lavoie told CBC News, that's a Canadian broadcasting company there. I'm like, my cat's at home in the air conditioning. The couple discovered Lavoie's phone number had been printed on a t-shirt sold by company Wisdom New York. Wisdom, emphasis on dumb. The shirt features a missing cat poster and Lavoie's phone number. A Wisdom New York representative said the shirt has been pulled from the online store. The use of a real number within the art created was not intentional, the representative said in an email to CBC News. Lavoie said she does not want to change her phone number as it bears a 604 area code, which is difficult to get. Ooh, fancy pants. I've had my number for 20 years. She said, I don't want to change it. I'll just keep not answering. There you go. Don't answer your phone anyway. Lavoie said she would like a real apology from the company. I feel like I deserve a t-shirt after this. I think we both do. Maybe not a t-shirt with your own fucking phone number on there. Maybe that's probably not a thing. So there you go. Yeah, call SVU for the blow up bodies. Yeah. Call yeah. So no way the artist didn't know it was a real number. It could have been. I don't know, unless they're just fucking with them. But that'd be fucked up. You start getting all these rando calls like, "We found your cat." And you're like, "Wait, is this code? Because my cat's right here. Hey baby, what's up?" I know, 8675309. 8675309. Oh, the silliness ensues. That's it for this bullshit. We'll be back on Friday, same bat time, same bat channel, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, 8 a.m. Pacific time. In the meantime, check out our pals here in the space. They got a lot of good programming for you. A lot of good information, entertainment, the whole 9 yards. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you can like and share and subscribe to this program, I appreciate it. We've also got donation links down below in the old bread basket there. And if you want to join our Patreon, it's $1 a month. You can do it. Put your name up at the beginning of the show and give you all the love that you can stand. Within legal means, that is. So anyway, we'll see you back Friday. Have a good one. Take care. Peace out. Smell you later.
This is City Alpha 5. Woo!